I think 24th or 25th. Yeah, 24th. Yeah, 24th of August, 2025. And what is happening in the crypto markets? Well, if you look at the VEPs, you'll see assets are moving along very nicely, as they always do with the VEPs. And yeah, it's been a relatively chill weekend after the nice little pump we had on Friday, literally during the Alpha Trading live stream, during the last 15 minutes or so of the live stream. We had that very nice little pump about half hour after market open, right? In traditional markets, I think it was at literally at like 10 a.m. U.S. Eastern time. The markets just started to pump. Bitcoin went up a few points. Solana went up several points. Meme coins like Bonk went up. I think it went up like 5, 6, maybe 8 points, something like that. And we saw the distributions, and we saw the mean reversions very nicely. Right? And so, of course, in many cases, they're continuing to mean revert on higher time frames right now. But what does that mean? That means that for this next week, right, if they continue to basically reset, if you will, right, to mean revert, complete the mean reversions, and then be set for the next move, that means that this next week could be set up very nicely for a nice little move. And given the recent intersects that we've seen on various time frames that will enable such a move, or that will give such a move a very high probability of occurring, you should not be surprised to see a relatively nice move this coming week. It'll happen very likely. It doesn't mean it's going to go to the moon or go to zero, right? Of course not. Relatively speaking, there will probably be some nice moves on the affected time frames where there are intersects happening. What intersects, do you ask? Well, the intersects specifically between the power means and the RMLRs. Why are those things relevant? Well, because whenever there happens to be an intersect between a power mean and an RMLR, and yes, specific ones do kind of matter, but generally happens in anyone, there tends to be a move that happens to be nice relatively to the time frame. What does that mean? Well, that means that if you're on the 15-minute time frame, you'll see a relatively nice move. How do you know what a relatively nice move is? Well, look at the size of the moves following intersects and even not following intersects. Look at the size of the moves you tend to get on the 15-minute. Look at the size of the moves you tend to get on the 4-hour. Look at the size of the moves you tend to get on the daily, or the 90-minute, or the 33-minute, or the 6-minute, or the 1-minute. Whatever time frame you happen to like, doesn't matter. Relative to that time frame, the moves that follow and intersect when they occur, which is a percentage of the time, because there's a pretty good probability that they will, because of the nature of how probabilities work given the volatility, right? And how volatility works given the nature of the standard deviation of returns, which is volatility, right? When the volatility is resetting, when it's very low or when it's very high, and it's going to go in the other direction, and the correlation is going to do the same thing. Let's say if the correlation is very low or very high, and it's going to go in the other direction, right? If they're both going together in the same direction or they're going in opposite directions, you should know what that means, right? Or if one is very low and continues to go sideways, or very high and continues to go sideways, and the other one is very high or very low and goes in one direction or the other, you should know what those things mean. It's not complicated. There's only really 6 tendencies to know. You could be more nuanced and be like, well, there's also other tendencies. They're just not as reliable. Yeah, but then to me, they're not tendencies. You could say, okay, they're kind of like tendencies, but they're less frequently reliable. There are 6 that are very, very reliable. That's why we use them. And we inform you about what those are. You just go to the Alpha Trading Discord and you'll learn what the tendencies are. We give them away in a cheat sheet. It's very easy. And by the way, it works for volatility just as it does for entropy. And the point is, right, you go to the Alpha Trading Discord, just go to the free tools channel and you get it. What does it say here? Which country do you from? Do I from? I am in Israel. I'm American, but I'm in Israel. I'm American among other things. And I'm in Israel right now. Anyway, so it would be, if you are actively trading, it would be, let's just say, wise to keep your eye on the market this week, and probably foolhardy to ignore the market this week. And yeah, you could tell me these are the dog days of summer, nobody's paying attention. Technically speaking, the dog days of summer ended a couple days ago. Technically, if you're going according to the classic traditions of it, dog days of summer are from August 2nd to August 22nd. We're now past August 22nd, which means the dog days of summer are over. And yes, it's true, the full labor force is still out on vacation. In terms of the masses, there are still a lot of people on vacation in the Northern Hemisphere. But a lot of people have already come back and are getting ready for Labor Day and post-Labor Day, and getting back to work and back to school and all that stuff. So you should be preparing yourself for the very high probability that there could be a significant move this week. Now, could it be that the market does nothing this week and mixed traders pull their hair out for yet another week and only starts to kick it up after Labor Day? Yeah, I could. But I wouldn't count on it. Right? I wouldn't just sit back and be like, I can ignore the market this week. I mean, you could ignore the market this week, and then you'll come back next week to a market with different dynamics. And it might be substantively different. You thought I was going to say substantially, but I said substantively. There might be not insignificant changes between now and next week. So I honestly think this is a very important week to keep an eye on the market. And because, by the way, even if nothing happens and you just keep an eye on it, well, you will be ready for the very high probability that if nothing happens this week, something is likely to happen next week. And by the way, when have you ever seen a market in crypto actually do nothing for a week? Now, I know higher time frame traders feel like, oh, it's doing nothing. It only moved like 0.5% this week. Yeah, but if you look at the full range, it barely ever does that, right? It constantly moves back and forth, back and forth. Yeah, it might only move a half a week on the totality of the body of the candle for a week. But in that case, there's usually some nice wick action. And even when there isn't, right, if the market is moving back and forth between a range of like 1%, right, or 0.5% or whatever, and it's just going back and forth the whole week, that's actually really, really great for scalping, right? You might not think so, but it really is. Do the math. How many trades can you run during a week that only moves back and forth about 0.5% or 1%? Probably a lot of trades, right? You can probably score many wins in such a week. Probably more than on wins, more than the amount of wins you can score on weeks when it moves 5, 10, 15%, right? Why? Well, because there's more risk when it's trending and you don't really know what you're doing, right? When the market is moving very quickly and largely in one direction, and you don't know when to get in because you already missed the entry that you wanted to get in on, and then you don't understand how you should just wait for the next entry and just look to lower time frames for it, because there will always be more occurrences of opportunity, right? On any given day, there's 1,440 minutes. You can easily find an entry, even on the 1 minute candle, even on the 3 minute candle, even on the 6 minute candle, even on the 15 minute candle. You can always find entries, even on days when it's completely trending to one direction, heavily, heavily, heavily. You will still see moves going in the other direction, giving you either an opportunity to scalp the other direction and or to get into a position for more continuation to that general direction. So that is what I have to say to you. All right, folks. I wish you well. Hope you all have a great day. Happy trading. As always, stay safe, and we'll see you back in the Alpha Trading live stream